Hi, this is Kevin, and I worked on talking about the harms of GMOs on this project, and I also helped with editing the video.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a senior and I'm in charge for the research the beneficial of GMO food in this project. I think this project is pretty good because there are lots of people think that GMO food is not good for our health. So I think this project can help the people know the GMO food beneficials better.
Now, you might be asking yourself, what are GMO foods? GMO foods are foods that have been produced from organisms and have had DNA changes introduced to them via genetically engineering. Genetically engineered organisms are generated and tested in laboratory for desired qualities. The most common modifications is to add one or more genes to an organism's genome. Less commonly, genes are removed or their expression is increased or silenced, or the number of copies of a gene is increased or decreased. GMO foods are widely used in America and Canada. In 2010, 90% of the corn generated in America was genetically modified.
Transfer one or several exogenous genes to a specific organism and make it effectively express the corresponding products, peptides or proteins. This process is called transgenic.
At 2015, 64 countries require labeling of GMO content in foods. US and Canada national policy does not, unless it poses a potential health risk to the consumer.
According to the different sources of genetically modified foods, GMO can be categorized into three main kinds: plant genetically modified foods, animal genetically modified foods, and microorganism genetically modified foods. The world's first genetically modified crop, tobacco, was made in 1983. Nowadays, GMOs has already been an indispensable part of people's daily life.
Let's talk about the pros and cons of GMO foods. Pros of GMO foods are a resistance to insects, tolerance of herbicides, and tolerance of heat, cold, or drought. Some cons to GMO foods are allergies, which are a growing concern in the United States, and antibiotics to see how they really react with them.
Indian research has created a kind of potato which has 35 to 60% more protein. This kind of potato uses the gene from amaro seed, which can be beneficial to human health in developed and developing countries and help fight malnutrition, especially in child. There were no side effects on rats and rabbits on this kind of potatoes.
Another benefit of GMO food is improved food quality. Take a tomato, for instance. Now just fast forward a little bit. Yeah, gets bad. But take a tomato with GMO foods and they can actually modify it to last longer and stay fresher. A benefit of GMO foods is that they can produce a higher crop yield, which could feed more people for less. The FDA has been criticized a lot in the past years that they are not doing their job to protect the safety of consumers in the United States of America. This comes by the FDA not forcing companies to label what is GMO and what is not.
Thank you, John, for talking about the benefits of GMOs. Now, I'm going to start talking about the harms of genetically modified organisms. To this day, there has been actually no evidence of any health impacts. Many different types of modifications in various crops have been tested, and the studies have found that no evidence that GMOs can cause organ toxicity or any other adverse health effects. An example of this research is a study carried out on a type of GMO potato that was genetically modified to contain the bar gene. No adverse health effects were found in this. Another potential risk of GMOs is genetic contamination, or interbreeding. Introduced GMOs may interbreed with the wild type or sexually compatible relatives. The novel trait may disappear in wild types unless it confers a selective advantage to the recipient. However, tolerance abilities of wild types may also develop, thus altering the native species' ecological relationship and behavior. Third of all, competition with natural species. Faster growth of GMOs can enable them to have a competitive advantage over the native organisms, which is a benefit. However, this may cause them to become invasive or spread into new habitats and cause ecological and economic damage. This directly leads to increased selection pressure on target and non-target organisms. Pressure may increase on target and non-target species to adapt to the introduced changes, as if a geological change or natural selection pressure causes them to evolve to distinct resistant populations. Finally, once GMOs have been introduced into the environment and some problems arise, it is impossible to eliminate them. Many of these risks are identical to those incurred with regards to the introduction of naturally or conventionally bred species. If we look to an example of some species of corn that have adapted to be modified to be resistant to a certain type of beetle, these beetles have instead become incredibly resistant to this type of corn and have evolved the resistance to the toxins that are naturally present in the GMO form of the corn. This is an example of how superbugs can form, and this could be a potential harm in grazing crops in the future.